Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Commodity TV and a new edition of our online interview series. Today, we want to talk to Tier 1 Silver, and we have for an update here, Peter Dembicki, the CEO of the company. Hi, Peter. And also we have Ivan Bebek here, the chairman of the company. Welcome, gentlemen. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Good, thank
Perfect.
you.
Good. Thanks. Good and great to have you here. I haven't long time. I've spoken to you, so fantastic that you have taken the time also. But Peter, I would love to start with you. I mean, Tier 1 Silver, I'm a shareholder of the company, just for disclosure reasons also. You guys did a lot of trenching. You started to drill already in 2021. You had significant results. Maybe you can wrap that up a little bit and give us some sniff here. What's going on?
Sure thing. So yeah, thanks, Johan. So as many of your followers and Tier 1 supporters may know, we only listed last June as a public company, and we got drilling right away. Our project started with phenomenal surface results as far as rock samples, extreme bonanza grades, 300,000 grams per ton silver up to a kilo in gold, dozens of plus 10 kilo silver samples emanating from a 20 square foot platform or property footprint. And we followed that up with channel sampling and trenching. Again, came back bonanza grades, economic grades all over the map, and then embarked on our first drill program in June, shortly after we listed. And within our first 6 holes, had our first bonanza grade, drill hole result at depth. Followed that up with our best intercept in our last hole in hole 16. And over 30% of our drill holes in our first program were of economic grade and width, which was hugely important for a property that had never had any historical drilling on it before. And so we took that data, we downloaded it, we brought in some of the best experts on epithermal systems that we could find globally to do a site visit and data download of our entire phase of drilling. And what that came back was is you guys are on absolutely the right track. Your best targets are yet to come. And I don't know if you guys realize it or not, but there's every indication there that there's a copper porphyry driving the system below your silver system. So for us, this data coming through is huge for us. So we're no longer just about a silver and precious metals discovery, but we also have the potential to have a copper porphyry embedded in the story as well, which has completely changed the outlook on our project for this spring, summer, and fall's drilling program.
Fantastic. As you talk already about the copper porphyry, I wanted to come later on that, but let's get started with that. Ivan, the copper porphyry potential, how important do you see it and what is needed to really get to it?
Oh, great question. I mean, when we first looked at this Curibaya project about 4 or 5 years ago, it was the major porphyries on the belt that really gave us the reason to go here. And then, as Peter said, we started to find plus kilogram silver over 20 square kilometers. And the whole time we had an internal debate about, is there more of a porphyry swing here or a precious metal swing here? And we've seen both. The opportunity for precious metal, as we've all seen, we're starting to drill it, plus kilo below surface. But we started to see all the evidence of a porphyry. And several majors have come to us and have inquired about signing CAs. We're not in a rush to do that till we know what we have. And it's because the evidence is building and it's very strong. And now if you look at the belt and you look at some of the porphyries nearby, whether it's Tocopala, Quellaveco, or Cerro Verde is 3rd or 4th in the world in terms of size of porphyry. So you're in elephant country. You're in that huge kind of endowment potential. And to give you perspective, Johan, I said this on an interview the other day, a lot of mines or a lot of deposits could have 10 or 12-year mine lives. And if you look at Cerro Verde or Tocopala, some of these big ones, you're talking 50 to 100-year mine lives. And that's the kind of thing that could be lurking underneath or beside the precious metal system. And importantly, at the end of the program, and we put out a press release summarizing it, we got a chance to download all the data we collected. And yeah, Peter's right. It's only been about a year or 6 months of work, but we did an extreme amount of work and we got so much data. And when we compiled it all with some outside independent world experts, it's saying there's a real big porphyry swing here and we can't wait to drill it, in addition to the silver.
Fantastic. You just said, Peter, it's underneath. So the question to both of you, how do I have to think on that? Because the precious metal window, let's call it like that, is next to the surface, and then the copper porphyry is just underneath, or is it more to the side then?
classic intermediate sulfidation system. Precious metals will be on top, and you'll either be beside or underneath it. We don't know exactly yet because the precious metal system is so widespread, right? And that's something I think is missed so far by the market, is there might be 3 or 4 silver discoveries here of consequence. We feel like we've clipped the top of a few potential feeders or structures that could carry a lot of that bonanza grade. But the porphyry, it's not always uniform, but it looks like it's slightly below, a few hundred meters below surface, so not too deep. That's where it starts. Does it go down? Does it go horizontal? We'll see that in time. It's a bit early to tell, Johan, but it's definitely nearby. And if you look at the opportunity as an investor, what if we drill a nice precious metal system that gets mined, and then all of a sudden you're into a porphyry? That's the most perfect outcome you could possibly have. You get both, right? And that's what really is the opportunity here.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that is really fantastic. I will just stick with you a second because I saw in your press release strata-bound sub-horizontal bulk tonnage silver targets. Please explain, what is that?
Sure. So when you look at the layers, think of like a cake, and there's layers in a cake, right? And the layer of icing that's within the cake, there's icing on surface, that'll be the precious metal silver on surface. Then you have the cake part, and then you find another layer of icing. That would be the Stratabound silver zone. And we drilled, 40 to 60 grams of silver over certain widths around that, but it indicated a much more extensive Stratabound, and that's what we call it, Stratabound. It's horizontal zone that could be anywhere from 40 to 80 meters wide. And the grade is too early to tell, but when you have so much grade on surface, it gives you a lot of confidence that you could have a secondary unit besides the feeders going to surface that's carrying more of a horizontal Stratabound system. So that's a really huge outcome for us.
Okay, so 27.4 grams, 38 grams silver equivalent. Would that be economic at today's prices? I mean, it's too early to say probably, but just for my understanding, because it might look a bit low, the grade, but probably it's the speciality of that Stratabound thing, right?
Great question, Johan, about the grade. We weren't targeting grade in these big systems as much as we were targeting to see if they're there or not. And I'm not really concerned about the initial grade in the first few holes that get drilled into it. When you look at the endowment up to 300 kilo silver and the amount of samples that run above a kilo of silver, you got to be open-minded and ask the bigger question is, do you think there is a Stratabound target, yes or no? There's obviously grade around. Maybe you just drilled the lower grade portion of it. So that's how we feel about it. We feel we've hit the system. We feel the grade could definitely come into it. Grade's definitely around, and that's what we're going to go for. We're just going to keep drilling till we can start putting grade together. At the end of the day, a lot more drilling needs to be done here to put a deposit together.
Okay, interesting. So Peter, how much drilling, or let's say, how deep do you have to drill to get those to those porphyry copper targets? And also, what is the game plan for your phase 2 drill and exploration program?
Yeah, both go hand in hand, Johan. So we don't know the depth yet. We're in a matter of a couple of weeks, we're back on the ground. We start our testing, we start our geophysics, our mapping, our structural mapping, because we really want to hone in on a few longer holes to really test this porphyry as a part of our phase 2 drill program to go after our silver grades that we've seen indication of in our first pass. So it will be a part of this second phase of drilling. We're planning for another 4,000 to 5,000 meters of drilling. The one thing that has changed for this spring, which is massively encouraging for our company, is our new drill permit under the DIA or the DIA that allows us for up to 10 drill holes per pad. In our previous permit that we had, which is called an FTA, we were only permitted up to 2 holes per pad. So we had to be very strategic with 500 meter spacing between these pads to drill down and really, find what we could find in a third dimension. So phenomenal that we came up with these results based on the spacing that we had in that first drill program. So this second one will give us much more flexibility and allow us to be way more aggressive at drilling and using one pad more strategically if we get a sense that something's there. So again, this new permit is going to incorporate the Curibaya zone, which is up to our north, is where we got our best trenching, our best channel samples, our best rock samples. There's an elevation story to this. As you move up north on the map to the Curibaya zone, the elevation increases 300 to 400 meters, which gives us a bigger precious metals window for us to go after. So that means larger intercepts, better widths, better grades, hopefully, and that's just going to open up the entire program for us. So we have other targets on our traditional Curibaya zone, and then wrap in that porphyry testing as well, to send, save a few thousand or 2,000 meters of drilling to go test that once we have our targets identified. I don't know, Johan, you probably interview a lot of companies and in the sector and exploration. I don't know of many that have these dual stories to it that each of their own could be standalone world-class opportunities.
No, that's fantastic. Super. And Ivan, of course, question, what do you think you can achieve until year end? Let's say, what would be for you the real, let's say, 1 or 2 milestones you want to see after all these efforts you have done this year?
Well, first off, we're going to be offsetting 1.5 meters of 1.2 kilo silver, and we're just going to keep drilling beside it to see how far that goes. That's a 7 meters of about 300 grams silver average intercept, on surface, right? So that's something that could really give joy right out the gate. And then, as Peter said, we're going to go up to Cumbaya, and one hole could really do it, and it could be that lottery type of hole and indicate massive bonanza grade system. We're going to get a chance to drill about 20 holes this year in the next phase, which is substantial with those porphyry holes. And, by year end, what's the big milestone? A huge discovery in the porphyry would be unreal at 460 copper, with the outlook on copper being so strong. Continued hits of bonanza grade silver. I mean, if you look at the progress of Curibaya, everything has gotten better since we started. And before we started drilling, we said, it may be 20 to 25 holes before we really know we have it, right? And what we saw in hole 16 was, as Peter said, it was like the third hole that started to hit plus kilogram silver below the surface. So we're in it, Johan. We would love to have the outcome of a major silver discovery before year end, and potentially the outcome of a major porphyry as well. And then I think we've hit the grand slam for shareholders. And, current market environment, the outlook on silver is extremely bullish for this year.
Yes.
And I think from that perspective, Johan, I've done this for 22 years, and I've seen a lot of swings. If it wasn't big, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here on this interview today, and I'm happy to be here. And I wouldn't be there as a shareholder as large as I am. But it's big. It's really big. And yes, there's some risk with it, and it might take a bit longer. But the evidence is way more compelling this time than our first phase of drilling. And I think that's what's really going to come out for us in the next few months when we start drilling again. It's going to be a spectacular year to speculate on these huge discoveries. And as Peter said, not just one, but 2 big potential outcomes. And one of them is already started in silver.
Yeah, and I mean, you have the right metals, silver, gold, copper. That's exactly what the world needs, right? So that is really fantastic. So, Peter, question for you, as you are the CEO. What does the Treasury look like? Is the drill program financed so far?
Yeah, so we're in great shape financially. We wanted to make sure that we had enough in the Treasury that we could start work and commence work for our second phase. So nothing imminent needed in the Treasury. And that being said, if the silver market continues to go on a run here, and we can catch some tailwinds in the sector, yeah, we'll look to top up the Treasury for sure to help us through the second phase and the work that we want to do, not only at Curibaya this spring, summer, and fall, but also at our second project, Hurricane Silver, of which you're going to start hearing a lot more about as we unlock some historical data from those properties. Again, 2 premier projects within our portfolio, both carrying these dual stories to them. Curibaya with its robust bonanza grade silver system that we're tapping into with the potential of this copper porphyry. Hurricane Silver, again, historical channel sampling, chip sampling, trenching that we've done, bonanza grade silver veins outcropping on surface with a nice copper nickel story to emerge that you're going to be hearing from in the next coming weeks and months.
Just one point from me on that topic, Johan. We don't have any property payments. We own Curibaya 100%. And that gives us the luxury to go as fast or slow as we want. If the market's extremely bullish and it's working well with silver, we can ramp up and really go for it. If the markets are what they've been in the last 6 months, say they go a bit soft, we can go slow. So we don't have any kind of major financial burden. So Peter's got the company in exceptional shape right now to drive ahead, and the work's being done to get the drills turning, and we're waiting on that expansive permit, and then we can really go for it. But we're all voting for silver to get over $30 an ounce, and to get out there and start performing like we did really well last year when it was $30 an ounce. We were at $1.90 Canadian. But this time, you know, the discovery started, and there might be a second one. So it's a really good position that Peter has us in right now financially.
Super, and probably also a very good entry point into your stock.
I think that's a fair point. If you look at where we were and the average volume traded, I mean, we got a little bit soft. We bounced a bit this quarter, you know, but I think we're still trading at a big discount. And it's a speculative value, Johan. And what you have to ask yourself as an investor is, yes, I can buy mining stocks that are going to double or triple, but we're not swinging for that here. That's not what any of what you just heard is about. It's for the 10, 20 times your money swing. And now it looks a little better, or a lot better, from a fundamental technical perspective. We're seeing a lot of evidence below the surface, not just on surface. So, you know, for me, you know, I try to align my portfolio, as you know, with all the companies I'm involved in, or we are as a group. I try to align it for things that could make a big difference. I don't want doubles. I don't want triples. That's not what I'm here for. That's not what any of us are here for. We want to see that home run discovery that makes the top 10 global world-class discoveries on the map. And we think we have the real estate and the evidence pointing us in that direction.
Fantastic. Last question to both of you. Do you think the, let's say, left perception of Peru is maybe one of the reasons why, let's say, the stock was a little bit softer? And what is your thinking on the Peruvian situation today? Because we get a lot of phone calls and emails also from our viewers, and they say, hey, what do you think about Chile? What do you think of Peru? Will this be the next Venezuela? And, you know, stuff like this. So maybe you can give us, both of you or one of you, some thoughts on that, please.
Yeah, happy to give my take. You know, we follow it really closely. It's our job to be. So, you know, we're, as an exploration company, we're not overly affected by, you know, the macro picture, the political picture in Peru. You know, when we listed our company back in June, it was right in the middle of the federal election, and you had, you know, a pro-business Keiko Fujimori, who you know, was a convicted criminal, versus Pedro Castillo, former teachers union rep with zero political background, who was using some very strong language to gather votes and to get elected. He just got elected by, I believe, under 200,000 votes. It's still being contested. So the country is very divided, and mostly divided between city centers and the rural communities. And the rural workers are the ones that really count here, because these are the ones that are working at the major mines that are being affected and causing a lot of headline clickbait news. At the end of the day, the president has no control of Congress, the military, the ability to rewrite the Constitution at this point. So, you know, in Peru, unfortunately, it's much ado about nothing. There's just a lot of headline news and scares that newsletters like to jump onto, and you see, you know, a blockade at a mine. Well, rightly so. These workers have been working really hard for these mining companies for a long time, and they haven't seen what the politicians have promised. So these mine workers that mostly are from the rural areas that are working at these large producers are the ones that are upset. They've had a lot of empty promises to them from the politicians to get voted. And but as an exploration company, we're largely unaffected by this, because we have such great relations with our community. We hire local workers. We make sure that we are truly partners with our community, and we're not leaving that huge footprint that these large mines are, and employing thousands and thousands of workers. And so really for us, and I guess Ross Beatty said it best, you know, politics in Peru is a short-term game and mining is a long-term game. You know, 5 presidents in 5 years, probably working on their 6th. You know, don't get comfortable, right? And if it's a direction to go in Peru, it's probably back to the right and probably more pro-business, because they took their turn at an extreme socialist and got nothing done. So again, it's not your standard 2-party system in Peru. It is multiple parties all trying to get a piece of the pie, cause disruption where they can. So for us, largely unaffected, although it does create some panic when it's clickbait kind of news. But us, we just forge ahead.
Yeah, just from my end, Johan, been in Peru for almost 5.5 years here, and I've watched a lot of it go up and down and good and bad. And Peru's largest proponent of their GDP comes from mining, and same for Chile. And this is something they cannot afford to ruin. I mean, we're all on the backside of COVID. We're seeing inflation out of control. We're seeing economies in trouble globally. And I think that's coming to the front line here with Peru and other countries. And as much as we all want to be a bit more left, there's a big miss here. And it's gotten more difficult, not easier, in some parts of Peru advance permits and get into mining and advance these projects. So I think there's some pretty hard decisions ahead for Peru. I don't think it should be overread into, because Tier 1 has had no misses of steps at all in getting permits and drilling. It has no issues whatsoever. The country has the endowment. It has a challenging political scenario. And right now it's a bit slower than it should be. And I think it's going to get into gear here soon, or they'll face some pretty harsh economic realities with the mining industry, which is one of their most important. So I think when you look at this as an outside investor, you can look at the political noise. You'll never get the straight story, and we know that everywhere. But you can look at the basics of economy and what's supporting it and what's needed, and that's mining in a responsible, socially responsible, environmentally responsible manner. So I think personally that Peru is, you got to be patient with the noise, but it could really open up here and go from, instead of towards Venezuela, it could go like Ecuador, which has turned a huge corner and is now a very appealing place to go look for mining projects. So I think there's always going to be turmoil in countries with massive resource endowment, but I think eventually that moving these things ahead and being more favorable towards the development is the way these countries have to go if it's big economic impact on their GDP. So I think we're in good shape. Major mining companies are all still in Peru. There's still more coming into Peru, but they're going to be patient until Peru gets things in order. And so, yeah, maybe there's a sixth president here this year, maybe not. Maybe it's this guy stays and just improves the mining code. But in general, we think nothing to worry about. We're still looking forward to doing more in Peru, not less, as a group. And so that's our theme. We're just going to pace ourselves with the country as it allows us to move forward and make sure we're in good areas like we are with Tier 1 that don't have any immediate challenges.
Fantastic. Super. Peter, Ivan, thank you very much. We are way over the time, but it was so interesting to talk to you. Fantastic. And thanks for the update. And we look really forward to some really good drill results and good news from you guys.
So do we. Thank you so much.
Super.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that was Peter Dembicki, the CEO of Tier 1 Silver, and also Ivan Bebek, the chairman of the company. Yeah, you heard it. The exploration program, the phase 2 drilling, everything is on the move and enough money in the bank. So we look forward to a lot of news flow. And as Peter said, they can drill from a lot more platforms, a lot more holes. So it's getting really interesting here. Don't forget, there is a precious metal window, but also copper porphyry window here. And if we put everything together and they make those nice big discovery holes, that is an outstanding story. And as Ivan likes to say, we are not here to double or triple our money. We want to do at least 10 times. Honestly, this is why I'm a shareholder also in the company. I would suggest you check out Tier 1 Silver. Make sure you get some. Thanks for watching us, and bye-bye from Switzerland.